Homeless pizza escort.
This happened a couple years back when my friends and I were about 21, 22. We had gone to Cape Town for our end of year holiday, which is what you do when you're young and from Johannesburg, with a group of girls who some of us were dating and some weren't. For context, Cape Town is often considered to be the best part of South Africa, and for good reason. And at the end of the year, there are parties every night, and the city is really vibrant with locals and tourists doing their thing. It's also pretty safe, relative to normal crime rates in the country. But there is still a bad homelessness problem here, and anyone who knows the country knows how poverty causes people to do just about anything. Things can get unsafe and dangerous in a matter of seconds. We were out for dinner and drinks on this main road where there are bars and clubs open all night. People everywhere having fun, dashed with a few unsavory people who were there for nefarious reasons, stealing phones and whatnot. Well, we'd had a few drinks and all wanted to go back to the apartment, so we left, and a few of my friends got takeaway pizza. Out of nowhere, this sort of well-dressed guy approaches us and takes one of the pizzas out of one of the girls' hands and says that he'll carry it for us to the taxi. Blah, blah, blah. These guys normally try to prey on innocent people who don't know what to do in this situation. But my friends and I went to government school in Joburg and immediately know that this is all a scam and that something's going to happen. So we tell him no way and get the pizza back from him, walking towards a taxi to get our ride back. All the way he's pestering us with the usual you get here, asking for change, asking for food, telling us we didn't appreciate his service, telling us sob stories. We're all a bit desensitized to that stuff, to be honest. So we tell him in a not so nice way to leave us alone. He obviously doesn't let up. In South Africa, these guys will pester you, but normally just to break you down until you give them something. But we make it to the taxi and get in and tell the driver to go. This guy comes to the passenger window. Passenger seat was unoccupied because tipsy young guys want to sit with young girls, I guess. And starts mouthing off about us owing him $5,000 and going off about this service of basically taking a pizza that wasn't his. There was no way we were going to pay him and tell the driver we don't know this guy and to go. The taxi driver has this confused expression on his face and either thinks that we do know him, he wasn't much older than us, or that we owe him something and are trying to make a drunken escape. So he doesn't listen and lets the guy in. This guy immediately jumps in and tries to launch over the front passenger seat, screaming and swearing at us about this whole altercation. We're all in a bit of a panic, yelling at the taxi driver to get him out. I'm leaning back, kicking up at this guy so he can't get in the back seat. And eventually the taxi driver gets the door open and pushes him out on the street and finally goes. The guy starts hitting the window. Girls are all terrified and crying, and chasing after the taxi until he just gave up. Other than that, would rate the holiday 10 out of 10. And it didn't stop us from walking around in less populated places at night and enjoying the sea breeze. But let's not meet again, fake pizza escort.
Almost mugged by gangsters with my baby.
I'm a male, and when I was 19 years old, I had a 1-year-old baby boy who I took care of by myself because his mother wasn't around. I also had a best friend who lived only 1 block away from my house, and he had just had a baby as well. It was about 9:30 at night, and my baby was not falling asleep, so I was bored and decided to walk to my friend's house and say hi. I bundled my baby up inside my sweater and zipped it up, with him facing my chest so it was impossible to see him in the dark, and I started walking. Between my house and his is a small trailer park that was notorious for having a Norteño gang population living there. I was aware of this, but my walk was only a 1 block distance, so I wasn't really worried. I got to my friend's house and we hung out for a little while, until my baby finally started getting sleepy, so I decided it was time to walk back home. It was about 10 at night at this point and really dark and cold, as it had just reached the winter season. I bundled my baby back up into my sweater and started my walk back to my house. I'm a scrawny white boy who has been picked on and mugged and jumped and beat up by gangsters in my town several times before, so it only takes seeing one of them for my anxiety to start kicking into a panic. I saw 4 of them standing on a sidewalk in front of the trailer park in my direct path to my house. I started to get very nervous because I could only see silhouettes of them. So I decided to cross the street and pass them on the other side of the street. But as I did this, I noticed 2 of them copy my exact movements, but in my direction. The other 2 men paced around where they were, as if they were just keeping watch or standing by in case I tried to run from them. That's when I knew they had bad intentions, and they were after me specifically. I honestly didn't know what I was going to do, or what I could even do. I just gripped my baby tight and looked down at him. He looked up at me with dreary eyes, halfway asleep. I prayed to myself and wished that I'd never decided to take this walk to begin with. The 2 men got closer and I walked faster, but the way that they were walking would intercept my path no matter where I tried to go. I knew I wouldn't be able to run with my baby inside of my shirt. I was fucked. What were they going to do? What was I going to do? The men approached me without speaking a word. They started laughing quietly, and then they looked down to see my baby's head barely poking out of the top of my sweater. They simply turned around 180 degrees and walked back to where they came from, without a word. Then they all disappeared back into the shadows. I cannot tell you how relieved I felt. The sigh of relief I let out was so heartfelt and sincere, I cannot describe with words how good it felt. I walked home much faster and decided that would be the last of my late night walks, especially with my baby. After that, I had the most confusing emotions running through my head. I was so grateful, and in a very weird way, I respected the gangsters for what they decided to do when confronted with the fact that their victim was carrying a baby. Either they feared that mugging or hurting someone with a baby would result in much bigger consequences than what they were wanting, or they actually had some heart in there somewhere deep down. At least one of them must be parents themselves or came from a loving family. I don't know, but seriously, fuck those guys for doing what they do to innocent people. And I thank those guys for having some level of decency in their souls. Either way, let's not meet again.
My work caused me to miss a deadly encounter.
Love this subreddit. I have a story that I was only partially there for, but my ex-girlfriend was present for the latter half. So this was when I was much younger, in college. I'm sure you could find this as it was in the news, local Rhode Island news, if you tried hunting for it. I was dating a girl that went to school in Providence, Rhode Island. It was the summer and everyone was back home. My girlfriend's best friend had an internship back in Providence, and this girl had a 4-bedroom multifamily home to herself. The other 3 roommates were paying for their rooms but chose to stay home. I guess they could only get this place if they started paying rent 2 to 3 months prior to the school year starting. But whatever. One weekend, my girlfriend asked me to go to Providence with her to spend time with her friend. She is lonely and has nothing to do on the weekends. We're only like 1 hour from Providence, so it sounds like a plan. We head down and just chill for the night, drink, and do some cocaine. It's about 2 a.m. and we decide to walk out and get some cigs. Nothing special. We walk by a guy on our way home from the gas station who is just staring at us. Kind of creepy, but no big deal, as it's 2 a.m. in Providence and her house wasn't located in the best of areas, but certainly not the worst. We eventually all pass out and me and my girlfriend head home the next day. The end of the week comes and my girlfriend asks if I want to go to Providence again, but I can't, as I have to work all weekend, so I decline. She heads down there and her friend's boyfriend is coming to stay over. Pretty much a repeat of the weekend before. They all drink, but end up going out and partying a little bit. They are walking back after a night of drinking when they enter the mudroom around 2 a.m. They close the mudroom door behind them, which was left unlocked, and there's a dude, really raggedy looking, in there, waiting for them. He says out loud to them, "Get in the fucking house." They all turn around and he has a gun. My girlfriend's friend has already unlocked the door to the house and it's partially opened. Everyone is frozen in place and the guy repeats himself, "Get in the fucking house." The boyfriend then steps forward with his hands up a little bit, as to not seem confrontational, and says, "Hey man, calm down. It's all good." I don't know how the fuck this dude was brave enough to do any of this. As he says that, the dude shoots him. My girlfriend and her friend run into the house and hide under a bed. They can't hear this, but the assailant took off and didn't follow them back in. They don't know this though, and are terrified, hiding under a bed, while the boyfriend is screaming for help. They think the psycho has come into the house and is looking for them. My girlfriend told me they were both silently crying under the bed while the boyfriend screamed for help. And this is the worst part. Yelling out, "Help me, I'm dying." The neighbors heard the gunshot and screaming and called the police. They ended up catching the dude. He'd been watching the girls for weeks. It was the guy we'd seen watching us the week prior. Worst part was, the girl's boyfriend ended up dying. Update. A user messaged me with some info and added a comment with it, but I'm going to add this to the post. Again, this was 8 to 9 years ago, and I can't find anything with a Google search. But with this info and the time frame, maybe some internet sleuths can dig something up. Yes, I remember when that happened. I believe it's right off Broadway, on Cortlandt Street, right behind the gas station. My friends had just moved into an apartment around the corner. If I'm not mistaken, my current coworker lives in this house with her boyfriend. They got a little bit of a deal but didn't realize why until after they moved in. There's still bloodstains in the hallway,